Aloha, and welcome to Feast, Dish, and Dialogue, a podcast presented by the Hawaii Ag and Culinary Alliance, sharing conversations from the Feast Summit at the annual Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Here, leaders across food, education, agriculture, sustainability, and tourism come together to explore the future of food systems and hospitality, and how culinary sits at the center of the visitor experience in Hawaii and beyond. In this Feast Dialogue episode, we bring you a dynamic panel presented by Common Ground, Agritourism and Destination Branding, Experience, Stewardship, and Cultural Identity, recorded live at the Feast Summit. Moderated by Senator Donovan Dela Cruz, Chair of the Hawaii State Senate Committee on Ways and Means, and featuring panelists Kea Keolanui, Jennifer Luck, Kau'i Kanaka Ole, and Micah Kāne. This conversation brings together industry leaders from Hawaii to share how they are advancing agritourism, regenerative hospitality, and culinary destination development in their own communities. Pull up a seat and join the dialogue.
Okay, we have a really great panel. I want to thank Hawaii Ag Foundation for putting this together and for inviting me. I'm just a little disappointed sometimes that it's recorded because then you can't swear. Okay, we have Kea Keolanui. She was born and raised in Hilo. Kea is a farmer, rancher, mother, and entrepreneur. She leads marketing for her family's OK Farms, one of the largest tropical fruit producers in the U.S., and co-founded Hawaii Eco Experiences with her father in 2019. The company champions regenerative tourism and local agriculture, purchasing over 1 million pounds of produce from Hawaii farmers since its founding. You want to come up? Okay, next we have Jennifer Luck. Jennifer is the CEO of Ground Kaua'i, with more than 20 years of experience in operations, fundraising, and land management, including serving as COO of Common Ground from 2021 to 2023. She leads the company's work to create regenerative hospitality rooted in food, culture, and community. Let's welcome her. Then we have Kau'i Kanaka Ole. Kau'i leads Ala Kukui in Hana and is the convener of Hana Ku, a cultural gathering that brings together chefs, hunters, fishers, and farmers, which is probably not easy to get all these guys together. She is dedicated to preserving place-based knowledge while creating meaningful connections between community, culture, and visitors. Let's give her a hand. And next we have Micah Kāne. Micah is the CEO of Parker Ranch, one of Hawaii's most storied institutions. Before Parker Ranch, he served as the CEO and president of the Hawaii Community Foundation, where he helped guide statewide philanthropic investments in community resilience and economic development. Today, he brings the same vision to Parker Ranch, balancing production, conservation, cultural stewardship, while exploring new opportunities such as agritourism. Let's give him a hand. Okay, our first question is for Kea. So your father created Hawaii Eco Experiences to share cultural, place-based knowledge with visitors. What was the inspiration that sparked the birth of this business, and what kind of response have you seen from travelers so far?
All right, thank you all so much for having me here. So in speaking about inspiration, I actually founded Hawaii Eco Experiences in 2019, and that's alongside OK Farms, my family's farm. So in speaking about inspiration, OK Farms really comes to mind. Watching my dad, Troy Keolanui, build OK Farms from 2002, barren cane land, into a beautiful, bountiful, green orchard. It's really a beautiful thing. We grow a lot of tropical fruit, lychee primarily, longan, other tropical fruits, spices, coffee, cacao, heart of palm, ulu, kalo, and many other crops. But what really sets OK Farms apart from everyone else is our ethics and our heart. And our mission at OK Farms is to perpetuate Hawaiian culture through agriculture, conservation, and community. And community is really the big word here. I always hear my dad, he's kind of in my head right now, echoing, community, community. You know, he always said, OK Farms doesn't belong to us. It's not ours. You know, we're here for a finite number, and we have to leave it better than when we found it. And we have to leave it better for future generations. We also have to inspire these future generations to want to do what we do and leave it better. So along with that, we started Hawaii Eco Experiences. And our main goal with Hawaii Eco Experiences was to create a tour company like no other, with community first, putting money back into the economy, not extracting it out. So Hawaii Eco is one of the first strictly agricultural tour companies in the state of Hawaii. We started it in 2019, and we're very proud. 1 minute, so I'm on time here. So with Hawaii Eco Experiences, we founded it because for years in my early 20s, I actually worked for a couple different tour companies. So I was in the tourism industry, and I saw a lot of companies kind of taking advantage of the resources and the locations that we have here in Hawaii that are meant for the community. And they're paid for by our tax dollars. Water, sewage, rubbish, parking, space. These are all paid for by us. And so when I created Hawaii Eco Experiences, our pledge was that we don't go to public locations. We don't go to public parks. We don't go to public beaches. We don't even go to national parks. So in turn, we're putting money back into the economy. We only work with agricultural, conservation-based businesses, organizations. We pay cover fees. We purchase local products from farms, businesses. We're putting money back into the economy. And I think that that's something that we can look at as an example for all tour companies and other farms that are in agritourism. The response, and I have to finish up here. I'm definitely on time, not on time, excuse me. The response that we have received is a lot of people that have come to our farm, gone on our tours, they come back to us and say, you know, hey, that changed my life. I went home and now I'm buying more local food. I'm supporting more farms in my hometown. I'm supporting more community-driven initiatives where I live. And that's all we can hope for, is that people leave our home a better place and they go home and they treat their home better as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is for Jennifer. At Common Ground, you're redefining the hospitality model that ties food and land to community. What personal experiences or values shape the way you lead this work?
Oh, wow, thank you. Kea, it was so great to hear about the work at OK Farms. And I think there's so much shared ethos and values on this panel. I think for me, I can speak personally and maybe talk also a little bit about what informed the values of Common Ground as well. But for me personally, I was, for most of my career actually, has not been in hospitality, it's been in land conservation. So when I moved out to Hawaii, I got my start with Kauai Public Land Trust, which at the time was a very small land trust based on Kauai, of course. Putting land into conservation, I had the great good fortune to work with a number of really incredible people, Gary Blake and Burl Blake and Mehana Vaughn and other folks that I think really informed and taught me and held my hand and showed me a number of things, why land is so important, how essential that is to the community and the fabric of the community on Kauai, and then spent several years working in the land trust sector, both with Hawaii Land Trust, and now I have the great privilege of sitting on that board of directors, and in fact, we just closed on a conservation easement on OK Farms. And so I think, yes, round of applause for Bill. But I think really the people of Hawaii are what very much beyond my family have informed my values over the years of my time being here. And then when I jumped on board with Common Ground early on. The company started at the end of 2018, and it really began with a desire to do something that celebrated the place and the food traditions of the place, and that aimed to really redefine hospitality and do it in a way that was additive rather than extractive. And those values have been reinforced and informed by our team. They're not just my values, but they're held by everybody on our team. This deep love and reverence for our community and for the people that live there, and a desire to, as best we can, however we can, try and feed back into that community. So for us, that starts with how we grow the food regeneratively. We have a several-acre agroforest, which is no-till, so that's good for the land and the place. 100% of the food that we source in our programming, so we do farm and food experience tours, now 9 times a week, and we do a 5-course plated meal. 100% of the ingredients are sourced locally, not just from our farm, but also from surrounding farms. The oil, the salt, all of it. And we feed about $100,000 or more back into the economy every single year. And so that idea of supporting and celebrating the local community however we can is embedded in the way that we grow food and the way that we source food, and carries all the way through into the types of experiences that we offer at Common Ground. And really always aiming, not that we're always perfect, but we're always aiming to really celebrate the place. And I think for people that come and visit Common Ground, similar to what Kea was talking about, that they come away with not just an understanding of the beauty of the place. Oh, I'm almost done. Went by fast. But I think also the complexity of it and a little bit of the history of it, and that they take those lessons back and it informs how they travel, the way that they are a guest in a place, and how they care for their own homes and their own places. This idea of like a place-based ethos sounds really simple, but in my mind it's incredibly complex. And I think the more that we can all adhere to that kind of ethos, the better our world will be. And that's a little bit of, I think, what we try and impart on our guests, both through the food that we serve and the types of experiences that we offer.
Thank you. Okay, Kaua'i, through Hana Ku, you bring chefs together with hunters, fishers, and farmers. Why was it important to you personally to elevate hunting and fishing as a place-based intelligence? And how has that shaped your events?
Mahalo, Senator. So Hanaku, if you haven't heard the term before, I'll do a little story to tell you about it. As a child growing up, if you grew up in Hana, you knew the term Hanaku, and it was used kind of derogatory. It was a self-deprecating kind of term. So very rural Hana, and it referred to ku as in kua'aina, as in backcountry, country bumpkin, actually. And so we would tease each other, like you failed the math test. Hanaku, that's why. Or you had to use a borrowed hand-me-down for picture day. Hanaku, that's why. So it was that kind of idea. We grew up with that. And as I got older and I got into this position at Ala Kukui, I realized that Hanaku is the opposite of that. The kua'aina of the land is the most intelligent person of that place. They know the cycles, the seasons, when to get what at what particular hole or puka. And so I wanted to flip the idea of what Hanaku was with our own people and really elevate the hunter and the fisherman and the farmer, because the kua'aina, or the backbone of our community, is actually the smartest guy in the room. And so what I wanted to do was to elevate that intelligence and elevate that knowledge by pairing them with some amazing chefs that we have in Hawaii. And it started with little weekends. We'd ask a Hana family, because of course it's generational, knowledge that's passed down. We asked the Hana family to host. And they'd host these 2 chefs who'd come, they'd take them holo, catch whatever, we'd bring it back to the Ala Kukui kitchen and we'd cook. And that's as simple as it was. That was the program. It was super hard to get all those people together and to make a plan and to, but what happened was really magical. It was the beginning of a relationship that has lasted, this is the 10th year that we've done it. We have chefs attending weddings of some of the Hana families. We have chefs when we come back together, and all the Hana guys are like, who's coming? Which chef is coming? Once they hear, oh, Sheldon's dad's coming, he goes to get a goat because he knows Uncle Ray is gonna cook something with this goat. And so like those are the beautiful kinds of, there's my stop time. Those are the beautiful gems that come out of Hanaku, but they speak to a time, I think, in Hawaii that for many of us is long past as far as hospitality and tourism. To be able to come into a community, to be able to come into a family and feel part of it, and leave and know that you can come back and be welcomed. That's what Hanaku has given to our hui of Chef Ohana and also our families in Hana. So it's been a great ride.
Thank you. Okay, Micah, as the new CEO of Parker Ranch, you're leading one of Hawaii's most storied institutions. What does this responsibility mean to you personally, and how do you see Parker Ranch evolving under your leadership?
Well, first off, aloha mai kako and mahalo nui for allowing me to be here. What interested me about this topic when Denise, offered this opportunity was something that philosophically I just believe in. I believe that Hawaii needs to leverage its strengths to support our necessities. And when you think about that, when you look at our industry, the industry that we're in ranching, you're telling, people who are diatomically on completely opposite sides of a approach to come together and collaborate for the betterment of everyone. I know very little about ranching. I come from a family who actually is from the ocean. My family had a commercial fishing business since the early 1940s. It supplemented, my income through high school, college, grad school, and in the first few years of my marriage, my uncles and aunties, throughout our childhood, operating out of Waianae Boat Harbor, and before that, Pukai Bay. And so I come to the industry with a very similar perspective. It's just our pasture was the ocean. They have wind, we have current. They have rain, we have waves. We have nalu. They're caring for a product, we have to care for a stock. And I can recall as a young child being on the boat, and we were outside Makaha Surfing Beach, and we were surrounding a school of o'io. And o'io is a very, very scary fish. And they school, but if you scare them, they're very strong, and they knock down your net. And part of managing stock is just taking what you need, right? And so in order for you to manage your stock, you got to manage the live species when it's moving. And as I was sitting there, my uncle pushed me in the water, and he said, snorkelers coming to you, and pushed the snorkelers out. And these were some tourists that were coming from the resort, right? And immediately it's just madness by all of our crew, right? Because they are scaring the stock and therefore challenging our livelihood, right? And so when we introduced the concept to our paniolos, same perspective, right? I mean, we've struggled over the 175 years to perfect our craft. And it has been perfected based on nobody being around us, because we had such inherent competitive challenges to compete in a global industry with challenges that our competition doesn't have, being isolated here, cost of land, cost of capital, limited resource, limited water, limit, and we're still Paniolo's #1 in the country. #1 cow-calf program in the country. So naturally, they want to protect that space. But I think we now realize that that we can create ambassadors to overcome these challenges, because most of them are policy issues. And so if we can use this tool to create ambassadors to educate not just the challenges that we're facing here in Hawaii, but around the world and throughout the country, then we have a great platform as one of the largest ranching operations in the country to tell an amazing story. And we have the best people to do it. People who know the Aina, who have brought an authentic Hawaiian perspective over the last 8 generations into our work today. So I'm excited about leaning in on that. I think our panelos are open, but we're definitely going to tiptoe in.
Thank you.
They all have registered rifles, you know.
Okay, Kea, I'm going to ask, you kind of answered the question I was supposed to ask. So I'm going to ask something slightly different, right? Because you're a new leader in agritourism. And so how would you go about getting others inspired to approach agritourism the same way you're doing it, and how would we build that capacity?
Okay, mahalo for the question. So agritourism is a critical part of OK Farms. It's a different stream of income that we have. As many of you know, farming, it's a volatile business. We have lots of different pressures against us. We have drought, possible pests, and we never know when we're going to get hit with something that affects our harvest. And it's very variable. And so just like this past year, 2024, 2025, we had one of the driest years Hilo has seen in a long time. I'm 33 and I've never seen it this dry. And it affected our harvest majorly. So we're one of the biggest lychee producers in Hawaii. We usually harvest around 100,000 pounds of lychee per year. This year, we harvested 18,000 pounds. As you can imagine, that hurt. Yeah, my dad's still complaining about it. And having that extra stream of income is super important. And then, of course, if we want to talk about how volatile farming is, tourism is also volatile. As we all saw during the pandemic, the tourists disappeared from the face of Hawaii. And we were all left wondering, well, what's going to happen next, right? And farming was one of the biggest industries that was affected by the pandemic. The biggest buyers were hotels, restaurants. They were buying thousands of pounds. So when those markets disappeared, the farmers were left with thousands of pounds of excess produce. Around that same time, November 2019, I started a tour company. Really good time to start a tour company, yeah? No, it wasn't. We had got our tours where they're kind of going, and we, ended up, we're talking to the cruise ships, everything's rolling really well, and of course the pandemic hits. So we knew we had to pivot. We started talking to farmers, and they said, hey, we have all this excess produce. We started talking to the community. They said, hey, we want produce. And so we took all of the seats out of our 4 brand new leased to own high-top vans, and we became a produce company. And we started transporting produce across Hawaii Island, and we moved hundreds and thousands of pounds that year. We redid our whole website to sell produce boxes, 9 different items of fruits and veggies, and pretty much it was whatever the farmer had in excess. We just tried to move produce as quick as possible. We started working with nonprofits to get grants that then funded our tour company to, give away this produce. We delivered it. And overall, that is the biggest, part of our company is we put community first and farming. And, we took that and we took it to the cruise ships. And at the end of 2020, I told the cruise ships, hey, you won us. We do good. We're treating our community good. We're helping farmers. I said, pick up our tours. And to my surprise, they private contracted our company. And they picked up the 2 tours that I created, our Farm to Glass tour and our Waterfall Tropical Farm tour. This is just an example of how doing good, being community forward, putting your values before money will, can bring you into this space of agritourism. And also I do want to acknowledge that OK Farms, we have a geographic benefit. We're the other side of Rainbow Falls. We have Wailuku River. Not all farms have that. So how do other farms participate in agritourism, right? And really what we're seeing is that tourists want to have farm-to-table experiences. They want to try new flavors. They want to try new things. And I think if we put farm-to-table food, flavors, everything we grow here in Hawaii, if we put that forward, it's going to open the door for many farms to join the agritourism sector. And really, Hawaii has the potential to be the agritourism farm-to-table leader in the world. We have the water, we have the soil, we have the destination, and we have the farmers. So let's do it.
You're listening to Feast, Dish and Dialogue, conversations from the Feast Summit exploring how food, culture, and hospitality shape the visitor experience in Hawaii and beyond.
I think that you're probably not, you're so humble, but I think it's not just all of that stuff. I mean, you need to have like drive, vision, you gotta have guts, you gotta have problem-solving skills, resilience. So it's rooted in the values, it's rooted in your commitment, but without those other traits, we really gotta, that supports all of you guys. I mean, you can see it in all of you, right? You guys are like, I don't care what the problem is, I'm going to fix it. And having that drive is huge. And without that, I don't think we can move it forward. So your guys' leadership is critically important. So with that said, Jennifer, what excites you the most about trying to create more jobs in ag and more entrepreneurs in this space?
Thank you for asking that. I love that question. Oh my gosh, Kea, it was hard to follow that one. That was inspiring and exciting. No, I think and I would just echo that I think that we are so well positioned to build in this industry. And similar to what Kea said, what we're seeing on our side is a real enthusiastic response to the way that we serve food and the way that we source food and the stories behind all of that. That is what people who visit this state want. That is what they're looking for. And I think that doing it in the way that we're all doing it, where you're supporting the local farms, creates a sustainable business model that can carry us far into the future and that is good for the community and creates a whole different type of experience for people that do come here. So it's incredibly exciting to sit here with you all and hear about the work that you're doing every single day. I think for me, what gets me most excited is the potential to build out entrepreneurs, is the potential to create jobs. That's my favorite part of what I do, is actually building the team and hiring people and meeting young people that are excited to get into this industry or even have skills that are maybe from a different industry but that could be very transferable over to here. So one of the things that we do at Common Ground is we have a private foundation that runs an incubator program. So we support food and beverage entrepreneurs that share our ethos. And by that, I mean they create products that are not just made locally, but also source a meaningful amount of their ingredients locally as well. Maybe not 100%, but there are central ingredients there. And all of those products, so they go through a program, about 10 to 12-week program. At the end of the program, they receive a non-dilutive grant to help further their strategic growth goals. And then those companies we continue to work with and have integrated into our food programming at Common Ground. So their products are featured in our retail store. Their products are featured online. Their products are featured by our chefs in our menus every single day. They're featured during our events. And that has really been a very gratifying program to participate in and to launch. And in fact, that came out of COVID. Because during COVID, the company was founded at the end of 2018, and we hit 2019, and once COVID hit in 2020, realized that we weren't going to be able to push forward on our hospitality revenue stream. So instead, we really focused on the impact side of the business. And one of those things was launching the foundation and the incubator program. That's when we installed the agroforest as well. We also did a Kapuna meal kit program that was also 100% locally sourced. But that incubator program has continued on. We just closed out our third cohorts. We've put, I think now, almost 18 companies through the incubator program and have stayed in touch with all of them, and watching them continue to grow and thrive has been incredibly gratifying. And so I think feeding that entrepreneur ecosystem, it's not an easy thing to do. That's what we hear from all of these entrepreneurs all the time. Starting a company in Hawaii, a CPG company, is incredibly challenging. Most of them are sole proprietors, so they do everything, soup to nuts. Trying to compete on global markets with your products is incredibly challenging. But the quality of the products that they're creating is higher than most anything else on the market. They are creating incredible products. These entrepreneurs are doing innovative things. They're creating products that are not only sustainable in the way that they're sourced, but healthy for your mind and your body. And all they need is support. And so it's been great. In fact, we took them to the Wahiawa Value Add Product Development Center as part of our program this last go around. I'm gonna have to stop talking soon because I think I've gotten 2 stop signs. But that's one of the things I think that brings our entire team the most.
That's okay,
pride
you mentioned
and
Wahiawa.
Yeah. So I got another minute maybe. Is that how that works? Yeah, that was incredible. That blew all of our minds. That was the most amazing day. And then I think also just trying to build up our team, growing our team, giving young people an opportunity to learn about business development, about startups, how to run a startup, the roller coaster of a startup, how nimble you have to be, to learn about growing food and about the culinary arts. And that's also been equally gratifying. So our team went from, when I started, I was one of the first people on the team, and we had like 3 people, and now we're, with our banquet staff, almost at 60. And that's been a great joy. So I'm excited to see all of that continue to grow over the next several years as we take additional leap forwards. We're breaking ground on a restaurant. We'll open that in 2 years. And just continuing to build the team and provide opportunities is honestly what excites me most about what I do.
Thank you. Okay, so Kawi, how do you think Ala Kukui is going to broaden your vision with the cultural gatherings? And how do you think that this is going to guide the future of agritourism in Hawaii?
You didn't change the question.
No?
Just kidding.
No. No. But you can change the answer if you want.
You know, listening to these guys is very inspiring. Small community again, yeah, and 2,000 population. We grow up together from literally preschool, high school. Some go off, most stay. And so for me, having this retreat space and wanting to serve community, but also having others come in with their groups, be part of the community for a minute, share in that energy of that space that we meet in, that we cook in, that we have hula and all of those things, for me, it was very important to figure out how to elevate sustainable lifeways in ways that reflect the beauty of our people and place. And what is so important, and I think we're walking through right now, this huge transition as far as AI. I just sat in this morning's session of AI. AI, you know, we've lived through the internet coming on and ChatGPT and virtual rooms. What is going to be considered scarce, what is still scarce, I think, now, and what will be of wealth will be those connections that I talked about, those human connections that make us human. And Hanaku has kind of highlighted that for me. And I've been able to see the magic that living in a rural place can give you. Even though it takes forever to change, that's the beauty of it. And so trying to make sure that Ala Kukui can continue to hold space for real connection to take place, for our community to have real connection with the chefs, with food, with land, with people, guests who come and stay at Ala Kukui. That is important, I think, to uphold so that as we walk through this new age, we are able to be grounded in and go back to the beauty of relationship with self, with your breath, with your mind, with your spirit, relationship with others, with your family, your work family, your community, and especially relationship with the land. And for me, that is the ultimate vision, is to hold that space that we can all remember those kinds of connections. We can foster those kinds of connections as we walk through this beautiful, AI is beautiful, but uncertain times that we're in right now.
Thank you. Okay, so for Micah, how do you balance Parker Ranch's legacy of production and conservation with new opportunities like agritourism? And what role do you see it playing in connecting visitors to the ranch's history and future?
Yeah, mahalo. Well, first off, Parker Ranch, Inc. is a for-profit entity that is owned and solely owned by the Parker Ranch Foundation Trust, whose sole purpose is to elevate the well-being of the people in place of Waimea by supporting 4 primary beneficiaries: Queens North Community Hospital, the Hawaii Community Foundation, one healthcare organization, one very general community support organization, and 2 educational organizations, Parker School and Hawaii Preparatory Academy. And so our benefactor believed that by targeting those 3 sectors, that we could elevate the well-being of people in place of Waimea. Our job, and it was the interest of our benefactor, to see how we could maintain an authentic ranching operation that created a certain lifestyle and experience and stewardship of aina and vai that was perpetual for the kind of place that Waimea was and wants to be. When you look at ranching operation, and you can see this throughout the storied history throughout Hawaii with the various different trusts, and it's not an industry that can keep up with the evolution of demands of those beneficiaries and our community. And so we're challenged with balancing between those 2. And so we've adopted a preamble that says we believe that the value that a thriving, authentic, at-scale ranching operation through a Hawaiian Paniolo worldview to tell our story about our culture and our place has an elevated brand that can be additive and more competitive to any other industry we decide to go into. And that we have that confidence that our story is so unique that we can compete and win. And so, and as a leader, not knowing pretty much anything about the industry, your role becomes one of a servant leader, which is the awesome position to be in. So my job is to serve, the individuals who are in the field every day doing amazing work. At any given time, we have 15 to 20,000 cattle on over 138,000 acres of land. And we have 3 cowboys who have 3 to 4 cowboys that report to them that are the most astute scientists of over 30 to 40,000 acres, that they have to make decisions over thousands of cattle on how they're going to move them through our acreage. They're looking at rainfall, they're looking at soil conditions, they're looking at grass conditions, they're looking at genetics. These guys can look at a 1,500-pound bull. Well, they can look at a bull and tell you within 20 pounds how heavy that cattle is. They can look at the genetics of the body makeup, and they're going through a scientific calculation about how they have to move that herd to a certain paddock to get a certain amount of feed in order to get them to a weight that we need to make money on. And so to what like Kea talked about and Kauai and Jennifer about the brilliance, I mean, these guys are professors, man. And so our job is to elevate that knowledge and show that, you know, we have a certain place that we can compete here in Hawaii as a result of those 8 generations of knowledge that have been passed on generation after generation after generation. And that to me is just an awesome privilege that we are given, and we're right smack in the middle of stepping into that. So I don't know the answer to how, but what I do know is it's going to be a servant approach.
Okay, let's give them a hand.
Feast, Dish and Dialogue is presented by the Hawaii Ag and Culinary Alliance, the nonprofit organization behind the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Founded to strengthen Hawaii's culinary and agricultural industries, HACA connects world-class culinary events with year-round investment in education, workforce development, and local agriculture. Through programs that support students, entrepreneurs, farmers, and hospitality professionals, HACA works to ensure Hawaii's food and hospitality ecosystem continues to grow, innovate, and thrive.
What is really noticeable, though, is that they all have kuleana. They all share the view that Hawaii needs to be globally competitive. They're all willing to do whatever it freaking takes. And you know, they have the aloha that exudes them at the same time. I mean, these are all these different things. You know, they're not just being, we just have to focus on values. We just have to focus on, I mean, they're looking at it way more comprehensive. And I feel like that's what's going to help lead us to the future, is making sure that we take a comprehensive approach. So I really applaud your kuleana and how seriously you take it. So now we're going to start with Q&A from the audience. So we're going to ask Josh to come up. Okay, who has the first question? They answered all your questions already. Okay, back there.
My question is, if you have any roadblocks from the local community that's probably anti-tourism or anti-development, how do you navigate that? Also with any zoning or permitting issues, how do you handle the local community and governments?
So I can answer on our side, and I hate to say the word community again, but it goes back into that, right? I think the more that you put into the community, the more you work with local businesses, it's like having allies, you know, and you create this team of people that are rooting for you. And, you know, we haven't seen that because, again, our company, we made that pledge, we don't go to public locations. And we're kind of protecting that for the community. So I think if it was another tour company up here, I would be really interested in what they'd say. But again, community forward, as much as you can, you know, lock arms and walk forward together, that's really the way to go.
That's a great question, thank you. I think for us, similarly, we try and follow an ethos of community first, right? So if you start with that, if you're always community first and you consider the community and the impact on the community, then hopefully you don't encounter too many of those roadblocks. We're located on the North Shore of Kauai up a long road, and on that road are many, many neighbors. So I think to the best of our ability, this is a very specific example, but I think it speaks to working with the community. One thing we do in every single email that goes out after somebody books a farm tour at Common Ground or Lay Experience or whatever it might be, is an email that tells them to drive slowly. These are our neighbors on Kuava Road. We don't want to impact them too much, so abide by the speed limit signs, drive slowly. We push that messaging out on every single event that we do as well, and we try and be as communicative with the community that's directly next to us, our next door neighbors, as best we can, as often as we can. On the development side, we were incredibly fortunate. So the property came with a number of entitlements that were grandfathered in. It used to be part of Guavakai, previous to that Kilauea sugar plantation. So we actually haven't had to go through much of an entitlement process. A lot of what we do, whether it's events or retail, even the restaurant, all is already entitled on the property. So that's, if at all possible, invest in a property that has entitlements. But so I think that really smoothed the path for us too. But even if we need additional entitlements in the future, we're never going to get there if we're not good community stewards and we're not good land stewards. And those relationships, the way that I view them, are always tenuous. You should always be striving to steward those relationships. You should never assume that they are always okay. It's something that you constantly have to be giving to and towards, and that's our responsibility. That's our kuleana. That's a conversation that we should never stop having internally is, are we doing right by our community? Can we do better by our community? So it's an everlasting thing as far as I look at it.
Same. It's a hard road. It's a constant road. Small community again. So like, you got to go to their house. For real. You got to go to them. You got to go to their house. You got to go to the garage. You got to go down the bay, and you got to have conversation. And you got to know who to go to. So it's very nuanced in a small community. It's nuanced. It's a constant rope, high wire act that you know, like you're familiar with, but never take it for granted. The relationships you already have, I think, and go to them and be honest and transparent. And you put yourself out there, you do your thing, you do your programs and your events, and they see, and they're like, oh yeah, she did what she said. And then you build trust again and again and again, and you get them on your side, like you were saying. But that's how we do it. We go to them always first.
For us, hello. For us, it's just a little bit different, and in the respect of we have the times that we have had issues with the local community. It's come from a fear that Blackberry was going to overdevelop something that was happening, turn it into a big tourist destination, and honestly, learning that it was coming from outside of the community that was kind of stirring everything up. But we took and just simply over-communicated with the community that was happening from zoning and everything else. We really had no issues with that, but the community at some point was against some of the expansion that we did have taking place, particularly with our new property, Blackberry Mountain, not necessarily Blackberry Farm, but Blackberry Mountain. And reassuring them that this was something that was not going to impact them, but bring money into the community that gave more jobs. I mean, we employ, in our small community, we employ up to 2,000 employees. So our impact in the community and our goal, our business goal, is to be the #1 employer in our area. And so Blackberry is always giving back to the community to try to help and reassure them. And I think that now that everything has been built, that's going to be built for the next while, as far as I know, everything is in a very low impact style. There's no light mitigation. You can still see the stars. There's nothing like that happens. And also, most of our land, combined between the two properties, we have close to 15,000 acres of land that borders the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. More than half of that is in conservation easements that cannot be developed any further. So we're actually protecting the land and keeping all of the overdevelopment. Some of you may be aware of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Sometimes it's referred to as the redneck area of eastern Tennessee. But that was the concern, that we were going to turn this pristine mountainside into something similar to that, and that's not at all what we've done. In turn, we've kind of protected and kept that from happening.
Just real quick, I think our filter is our 50 employees and our beneficiaries who are really of community. And of our 50 employees, 40 of them are either paniolos or maintenance workers who are weekend paniolos. So in our community, right? So I mean, if there's any litmus test for what we're trying to do, it's right inside our walls, and so that's why it's so critical that we get buy-in internally to our strategy and make sure that there's confidence and trust in and understanding and transparency about why we're going to dive into any type of effort. This is something new for me in terms of, we're going through a strategic plan, and we've made a decision that, our biggest asset are the families of the employees we're trying to support, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to elevate their lives, their community people. We want them to have good paying jobs that have high certainty. We want them to be proud of who they work for, what they do. We want them to wear our brand globally and be super proud about that. And that's really kind of just a natural filter for yourself. I don't think, you have to go out and, get a bunch of consultants and have people tell you what just inherently is the right thing to do. And I think in many ways in Hawaii, we've lost that a little bit. We think we can go buy a community's, support, and, that ain't gonna happen in Waimea.
If today's conversation inspires you, we invite you to experience it in person at the Feast Summit, returning Thursday, November 5th, 2026 in Honolulu during the 16th Annual Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Mark your calendars, tickets go on sale this May. Learn more at hawaiifoodandwinefestival.com.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Last question.
Quick question. I look around the room and I see friends and colleagues, marketing professionals, storytellers, advocates. How can we support the great work that you're doing, and what do you need?
I think being here is an example. I mean, it's a learning journey for me, and I think being someone, obviously, being here, having aloha for this place, I think we all want this place to be awesome, right? So I think being present, I've always felt the world is run by those who show up. It's easy to be a part-time critic, but, I'll dive in and try to understand the perspective of people. And I think, not just jump into what Instagram says or social media says, but really doing your due diligence before having an opinion on what we're trying to do. And meet the people who are in there. And I think you folks kind of preaching to the choir, I feel like, by you folks being there, because 99% of them are not. So, mahalo.
I think learning our stories and sharing them, that's huge, because that's how we grew in the past 10 years at Ala Kukui's, word of mouth. We did not market at all. It's been through telling stories from friends who've visited, who've been part of any of our programs, and they've told their friends. And that's like a natural filter. And it's the best way to market is word of mouth. It's slower, but it's pretty guaranteed. So share our stories.
So, one thing that we all have in common in this room is food. We all love food. One thing in common all of the panelists here have is we're in agriculture. That comes before tourism, even. And so I think you asked what you can do, and it's support ag. We need more ag in Hawaii. And agriculture needs help. It's, what my dad would say if he was up here? He'd say, farming is hard. Buy stuff from us. And he'd go on about how hard it is, because it really is hard. And it just keeps getting harder. The inputs get more expensive. The land gets more pricey. In order for our farm to keep the land, so I'll tell you guys just a quick story, just real fast, okay. So, our business partner, OK Farms, what does that stand for? Olsen Keolanui. Well, Mr. Olsen, our business partner, passed away last year. And he was very generous, left my dad the house he was living on, 50 acres, and he left us the opportunity to purchase the 375 acres that OK Farms leases at a 25% discount of market value. You know what that brings that cost up to? $9 million. Yeah. So, and we had 1 year from the day he died. I like to say Uncle Ed, that's what I called him. He used to light a fire under our ass while he was alive, and he lit a fire under our ass after he died. Okay. And thanks to HILT, Hawaii Island Land Trust, Trust for Public Land, we were able to put a lot of the land in a conservation easement, and that preserves it for generations to come. So the real question is, how do we get more farmers, more land? Thank you.
I mean, I would just have to say, keep telling the story. Tell people the why of this great place, the why of the mountains of East Tennessee. That's really, that's how you, like everyone else has already said. I mean, that I just want to echo what everyone else has said. That's all we can do, and keep those stories and keep those all those great things alive.
So, I was telling somebody earlier, when you think about ag tourism, is agriculture the accessory use to tourism, or is tourism the accessory use to agriculture? And that's something that we all have to think about, like, very seriously. Because if you going to back what Kea said, then you have, if tourism is the accessory, then we have to put more resources into ag. And then it has to become real, right? So what you can do is really, you can get involved. You should testify at the Board of Ag. You should testify at the legislature and the councils. You should testify at HTA. Because what we should be doing is telling HTA, focus on the visitor that supports these guys. Don't go bring in visitors that are not going to do any of these guys' stuff. The guys that probably, maybe just come in for the camping or just maybe the Airbnb, who's not going to spend. They're going to go straight to Costco. They're going to go buy stuff that's mostly not from here. So making sure that you tell tourism officials and the tourism committee to focus on the highest spending visitors in the world, because then that way we can stabilize the economic downturns, because rich people are rich no matter what the economy is. And so that would help them and stabilize them quite a bit. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not on the panel, but I cannot help myself. I can't. Anyway, I appreciate you guys attending, and I appreciate Hawaii Ag Foundation. I don't know if Denise is still here, but if we can give the panel and our guest speaker a big round.
Mahalo for listening to Feast, Dish, and Dialogue. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe and share it with someone passionate about food, agriculture, and hospitality. To learn more about the Feast Summit and the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival, visit hawaiifoodandwinefestival.com. Be sure to join us for the next episode of Feast, Dish, and Dialogue.